Yes, I spent time in a Soviet prison, but you can too. It's one of the largest prisons in Estonia. There's a lot of video content about Patarei prison, but I'd like to tell you a little bit of the history, not just the crumbling walls.
Peeling paint and rusted iron.
Who was in there and why and what happened to them. It was a terrible place to be incarcerated.
You will learn how Patarei prison degenerated over the years into this disgraceful situation. Over the time of Patarei's existence, the flags of 3 different countries flew over this prison. Those were Russia, Estonia, and Nazi Germany. But the really unique thing is that at first, honest citizens were putting criminals in the prison. Then this prison evolved into criminals locking up honest citizens. Wait a minute, let's back up. It's fun to learn where prisoners were held before Patarei came into existence. When you go to Tallinn, check out the big fat tower near Old Town's entrance. In those days, it was the custom to give towers female names. This one is called Fat Margaret. And that's where they held prisoners in the 14th century. It's now a maritime museum that you can visit. And some people say it's called Stout Margaret now, a recent PC change. In 1917, workers, sailors, and soldiers set the tower ablaze. Their aim was to release the political prisoners that were held there. Since time started, there have always been bad guys that need to be locked up. So where did the non-political prisoners go? Some went to the medieval castle of Tumpia until other facilities could be arranged. Find the Tower of Tall Herman, also near the front of the old town, where you can hear the national anthem played and see the flag raised every morning in Tallinn's Old Town. There's the Tower of Tall Herman, proudly waving the Estonian flag. So being charred beyond recognition, Stout Margaret needed to be replaced as a prison. It only took a year before what I figure was some very clever city planner to have an aha moment. The fortress that Russia's Tsar Nikolai I had built had been recently decommissioned. His suggestion might have been to turn that old abandoned fortress into a new prison. That sounds like a clever idea to me. Since Patarei was first created as a fortress, naturally it's best positioned on the coast. Here's the layout of the prison. Oh, that clever architect. He or she, oh wait a minute, I don't think so, designed it in the shape of a mariner's sextant. Sextants were invented in 1731 by 2 Englishmen. They helped navigate the ship by measuring distances between celestial bodies. I just thought that might be information you've always wanted to know. After some reconstruction in 1920, the new prison was ready to accommodate 1,000 prisoners. It was the largest in Estonia. Little did they realize that Russia and Germany would try to cram over 4,000 into that facility later on. It's the perfect place for a prison because the walls are 2 meters thick in some places. Communists tried to overthrow the government in 1924 but were defeated. So the prison was enlarged by 10% to accommodate 1,200, which would now include political prisoners. From the very beginning, this prison was founded on the principles that the inmates needed to earn their own keep. Therefore, there was a sewing workshop, print workshop, and a bindery. When Estonia announced political amnesty in May 1938, 104 political prisoners were released. Here we go. Estonia was declared a Soviet Socialist Republic in July of 1940. So now Russia was in control again. The man who had been sentenced to 15 years of forced labor for his participation in the rebellion of 1924 now switched roles and became commissar of the central prison. Fancy that. Now the Soviet Union's notorious NKVD took over the prison. Living conditions became especially inhumane, and some prisoners were simply shot to make room for new prisoners. Prison directors came and went, mostly to their graves. Prisoners were sent away by train or ship to Soviet labor camps. Less than 5% ever returned to their homeland. Get on that roller coaster again. German forces captured Tallinn in 1941. Under German jurisdiction, detainees reached 2,668 in 1941. By 1945, detainees numbered 3,620. The Nazis detained some Jews here, but they also locked up political agitators. Nevertheless, they didn't treat them as inhumanely as the Russians did. Here we go. Soviets took over again in 1944 and stayed in control until 1991. Under the Soviets, secret executions in Patarei picked up again. The majority of the overload of detainees were for political reasons, and so were the executions. Others were sent to Soviet gulags and never heard from again. Russia has a long history of liberating countries. For instance, when they invaded Ukraine, so-called enemies of the state were quickly done away with. You will see rooms in the following pictures where they were either shot or hung. Not just political agitators. You will see scientists, writers, poets, even Christian Palusalu, an Olympic winner. I invite you to pause the video to give them a little moment of remembrance as you read their names. Velo Agori, a cartoonist, also a political cartoonist, was in and out of Patarei a couple of times. Gori lived through the German occupation, but the Soviet Union had to get rid of him really quick. This is one of his cartoons showing the Baltics and Europe being gobbled up by the Soviet Union. Just 2 weeks after the reoccupation of the Soviet Union in 1944, he was summoned to be interrogated by the NKVD. The next day, he was found dead in his apartment. They said it was, quote, suicide. And now for my visit to Patarei prison in 2012. We had complete roaming privileges for the entire campus. There was only one black cat to check our whereabouts. I'm going to take you through a tour of the prison by asking one question in each room. A newly shaved prisoner is carrying his mattress as he enters through the iron bars. What can he be thinking? Is this where he might have slept? Were overflow prisoners sent to these outdoor cells where ammunition used to be stored? Or would he be going to a bed in the psychiatric ward? The psych ward was a very big part of the Patarei prison, but which era was that? Was he anticipating toilets this bad? Was this one any better? It looks like it had a shower next to it. But maybe that one was for the guards. Doesn't look much better, though. Oh, look here. Is this a combo shower toilet combined? Was that prisoner one of the lucky ones who was able to make a phone call? This could have been in the years after the Soviets were driven out. Did he ever contemplate escape by climbing these walls and cutting the barbed wire? Barbed wire was everywhere. How often were prisoners allowed to walk down this little, quote, recreation area? Where are the elevators? We had to climb these wrought iron steps to the guard shack. Do they still let visitors do that? I don't think so. How could the guards see out of these windows in the watchtower? What happened to the chair legs? How many hours did the guard have to spend here looking out into this? Even with thick glass in place, wasn't he still freezing his buns off? Very strange. Those curved wire domes now have cements to prevent you from looking out of them. Each one of those domes has a cell underneath it. No bars here. Is this where the doctors and psychologists hung out? What? Lace curtains? You've got to be kidding. What procedures were done while a person was lying here? This room's a little better. Is that a sofa I see? Was it for a patient or for a doctor? A psychiatrist's office without much decoration savvy? Is that a repurposed door from a submarine? Is this entire wing for psychotic prisoners or psychotic-induced ones? Was this type of testing really done here? Some say yes, it was. This cell block is locked. What types of prisoners were housed here? Oh, beds with guardrails. Maybe this was the hospital ward. Was the hospital used after 1991 when the Soviets left? Because the prison did not close until 2002. The round saw blade, it's a little disturbing. Was it used by a construction worker or a doctor? A pot for sterilizing instruments? What mysterious concoction could have been in this giant bottle? Office for the doctor on call? Doesn't look too bad. Duty nurse, too, even got her own room? Was someone dreaming of life in the real world? This one left in a hurry, but did they remember to take the hard drive? Uh-oh, did someone get into trouble for upgrading to colored phones? Were rules relaxed in 1996 after the Soviets left and Twister came out? Oops, what was going on here? Were beds in the hospital wing not so close together? This doesn't look like a happy place. What went on here? What caused this awful splattering? Speaking of awful place, I did not see this room in 2012, but it is said that this is where the KGB carried out their executions by shooting people in the head. And what would be the reason why those two holes are in the floor here? This is where they say that prisoners were hanged to death. Unfortunately, these rooms got a lot of use during Soviet time. Punishments quieted down in 1991 after the Soviets left, but I don't think to this extent. It looks like a recent installation by some visitor. Postal and shipping seem to be in this brick building. 10 years of being vacant had really taken its toll. The floor was falling through. Were packages and other mail stored on these shelves? These cards talk about accounts and shipments. Looks like this worker had time to relax and sip a bit of tea. Another convenience for the guards was this smoking room. But is that for later on when they found out that smoking caused cancer? In August of 1991, Estonia was able to declare formal independence. Our Airbnb host told us how ecstatic the people in Estonia were to get the Russians out of their country and have peace and freedom again. Patarei prison closed its doors in 2002 or maybe 2005, depending on who's giving the information. You may or may not be able to visit. It all depends on who's minding the gate. The prison is expected to reopen in 2026. A shout out to Arthur Ray, who is Estonian and has a YouTube channel about Russia's war on Ukraine. He knows firsthand how important it is to get Russia out of Ukraine. So thanks for watching, and remember, stay happy and eat healthy. If you like this video, I invite you to subscribe. Bye-bye.